Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Chris Exelby. I'm Managing Director of TSL Professional Products. And I'm going to talk to you about our experiences of selling into China, which started around about 2007. So it's been quite a journey, and I want to share with you the key things that we learned along the way. Now, I'm quite aware that we've got a certain product range, we had a certain approach, and it may well not be relevant to a lot of you, but maybe there'll be something in there that you can learn. And quite frankly, if you've had any great ideas for your business that's worked, I'm also open to any suggestions that you might have. Right, there we are. So just to let you know, what does TSL do? This is a little bit important because this tells you the sort of products that we take to market. We make audio monitors, network power management, control systems. And we had those at the time we first entered China. We now have audio capture and processing and digital signage. So in other words, tend to be box products that work pretty well out of the box, with the exception of the control systems, which required a lot of software management and backup support. So quite a complex mixture of products. Now, why to export? Now, in 2007, the company was in pretty good shape. Sales have been relatively flat for a number of years. The big boom that had taken place and was still ongoing from SD to HD in the UK was still carrying a lot of companies along with it. But the company was little marketing, no sales force, no reseller management, few exhibitions except for IBC and NAB. And quite a big chunk of our sales were through our in-house systems integrator. So clearly we were at the vagaries of the market, particularly in the UK, and a little bit uncomfortable position to be in. So we need a more aggressive sales and marketing strategy if we were to move forward. So why China? Well, I had some previous knowledge of China. I first went there in 2002 and found it absolutely fascinating country in the grip of huge changes. Now, the pace of change has obviously slowed down a lot, but it's still a great place to visit. And that's one of the attractions for it, if you're a global traveler like me. They've got a huge, it's a huge country. It's a very aging network of SD moving to HD. And they have in China 1,000 broadcasters, 1,000. To give you a comparison, in the USA, they have 50 broadcasters. So the China market is huge opportunity for everybody. Centralized decision making at CCTV means that if you actually go to CCTV and you actually manage to design something to CCTV in exactly the same way that you don't get fired or you didn't get fired for buying IBM, it's the same in the UK, same in China, in that CCTV is a very good stamp of approval because they're very rigorous. Also, the number of people in CCTV you need to connect with is relatively small to make an impact. So it's actually quite a good target company. Broadcaster. And SD to HD, clearly the transition, a very big opportunity. Now, regarding China themselves, they want the best technology. They are not afraid to pay the money for the best technology. And the UK is very well placed because of the historic presence of the BBC, or if you've got worldwide companies like CNN, Sky, and so on, then the very fact that you're selling to these companies is critical. And because they want the best, then you're pushing at an open door. And they're hungry to learn about broadcast workflow and best practice, because they've come a long way in a relatively short period of time than the sort of things that we do in the UK in terms of continuous workflow improvements and efficiencies. They're lagging a little bit behind. So you need to modify your sales approach, but we'll come to more that later. Now in China, when they do projects, because the TV stations are all state-backed, they're all state-controlled, they tend to be massive projects. And more of that a little bit later. So it's a huge and a very enticing market. Now, it's not quite enough just to decide that, okay, we've got some sales in the UK, let's now go to China. You need to be absolutely honest with yourself. The Chinese are absolutely rigorous in their choice of technologies and products. And if you're a little bit doubtful about whether your product is the best, is competitively priced, then seriously you should consider whether or not you're going to be successful. So you need to be honest with yourself about your products. So let's just assume they're okay. But is your business reliant, for instance, in terms of sales, on a small number of key contacts you've had in the UK? A captive audience maybe at the BBC or ITV that you've nurtured over the years, who are willing to buy your products, even though they may be on a par with other people's, or maybe not even quite as good. That's the difference a good salesman can make, right? But of course, in China, you'll be selling to somebody who doesn't speak your language. And quite frankly, your product must speak for itself, because you won't be able to. Also, how much support will your product need? Will it work out of the box? Or is it going to require extensive support and configuration to get it up and running? It's quite okay if it's just down the road at ITV. You can stick a guy in a car, he can be there in an hour and a half, he can fix it and come home, everybody's happy. It's quite different if it's the other side of the world and the guy's got to get on a plane. Not only is it expensive, it's hugely disruptive. Secondly, or thirdly, if you really want to go into China, it's no good just playing at it. And quite frankly, a lot of companies just do that. You need to dedicate somebody to be responsible for that activity. Have they the time, the skills, and the ambition to stick at it for at least 12 months to really break open the market? Now, if you're going to do this properly as well, you're going to have to invest. You're going to have to invest to get the business going. Invest in marketing, in sales, in visits, and so on. And it can be quite pricey. I've got some examples of that later. So let's just assume, though, that your product is competitive in terms of price and performance. It's easily integrated, it's reliable in operation, and you've got a budget to support your activity. Now, CCTV is the BBC equivalent in China, and of course it's the premier broadcaster. Along with all the other 1,000 TV stations in China, the CCTV is the guiding light, along with Shanghai Media Group and Beijing TV. These are the three biggest TV networks. It's a very risk-averse culture. So in fact, if you go there and the product is good and you've got a good heritage with design-ins into the BBC and so on, you're quite likely to be able to win business. So that's good. Now, we were very lucky. TSL, we managed to get our Tallyman system. It was used by CCTV, and I've got to say, quite unknown to us. They used it in a number of OB trucks for the Olympics. So we were kind of a bit surprised in the run-up to the Olympics. We started getting a lot of inquiries from a country that we'd never visited, never been to, and had no idea they were using our product. But that got us off to a good start, because all of a sudden we had a flood of inquiries from China, because if CCTV had used it, then all of a sudden this was the product for choice by the systems integrators and the other broadcasters. So we had some luck. Now in China, as well as the big TV stations, there are around 5 main systems integrators. And these are big systems integrators. CSS, Beijing Lively, Sanitec, Gunghua Glory, Sony are the main ones. To give you an idea, CSS has recently floated on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. And they actually floated in excess of $350 million. They've got an annual turnover of $250 million. This is a systems integrator. Far bigger, 10 times bigger than many systems integrators we have here in Europe. So really quite huge. Now the key to success, when I look back, and it did require a lot of looking back over the last week when I was thinking about today, was that we accepted the responsibility of taking our products to the end market. The responsibility for working with the end customers, the broadcasters, the responsibilities of working with the systems integrators, and the responsibility for managing the sales into the territory. So we didn't go through any reseller channel, and I'll come on a little bit more to that later about reseller versus direct sales. Now, just the hotels are fine in China. It's a great place to visit. It's like any capital city in the world. But just a tip, ensure you have the Chinese address written in Chinese on any paperwork you take, because you can guarantee any taxi driver will not have a clue. Even if you show him a map where the hotel is, they won't know where you are. So write down and make sure from the hotel, and any visitor that you go to, you've got the address in Chinese. Also, the fare from the airport should be around about 100 RMB to any particular hotel in Beijing. It's customary for the first person, the first visitor, to pay about 10 times that, so you've been warned. So, going back to 2007, because of the way that the Chinese were building up for the Olympics, there were quite a lot of visitors attending IBC and NAB. And in fact, we ended up with a handful of business cards. Enough for me just to get on email and actually email all the CCTV, Beijing TV, and the systems integrators. I was able to arrange a week full of visits with the end customers, and it was, frankly, it was relatively straightforward. Now, I don't speak Chinese. In fact, I struggled with French. So it didn't matter, because the majority of the senior people in the SIs and the end customer, they spoke English, passable English. And for those that don't, they had arranged a translator. Normally it was one of the secretaries or one of the girls that worked in the company, trained in the West, who could speak perfectly good English. And with that, I had my demo kit, which you can see here. I dragged this thing. I've dragged it all over the world. And they really appreciated the fact that not only had I dragged this to their particular office in Beijing, but me, the managing director, I was able to make a seminar that lasted between 2 and 3 hours, talking about the key aspects of our products, which have been carefully selected. And I had between 15 and 20 people in each of the seminars, so it really got off to a great start. Just so, this product here, the case, by the way, it's made by CP Products, based in Slough. It's absolutely terrific. All my salesmen have got them. We take these all over the world in 3 and 4U. In the 4U version, it's the maximum size you can put through airport baggage systems. And when it's fully laden with 6U of equipment, it weighs about 32 kilograms, which is the maximum you can use. But as a sales development, as a demonstration tool, it's absolutely invaluable. Effectively, you can take a complete system to the customers, and I can't recommend it highly enough. So once you start being visible in China, so you visited the first your potential end customers, you started to email them, more about that in a minute, everybody will want to be your exclusive reseller. In fact, they'll approach you at Broadcast Asia and the other exhibitions, and they'll want to take your product. Of course, they'll take your 25% discount of any sales that you've generated. They'll give the customer 15% of it, and then they'll try to live on the balance. So frankly, if they earn $10,000 a year from you, you can understand how much effort are they going to spend pushing your line. In fact, very, very little. You still have to undertake the marketing, exhibitions, end customer support, and so generally avoid resellers where you can. And I'm sorry, but the market is changing, as we know. And the old days have been going through a reseller, then supplying a systems integrator. There isn't any more the room in the margin for that to happen. Plus also the way that the trade talks have changed worldwide, with the reduction in trade tariffs, with new tools like Skype and GoToMyPC and TeamViewer, it's made support and management of your end customer base so much more straightforward. And of course now you can communicate directly to your customer through emails, HTMLs, you can track their activities on the internet. Really, you can have a direct conversation with your end customer. So respect that. The problem is a lot of people do go, they appoint resellers in export markets around the world. They realize it's not working after a year. They spend another year messing about trying to get the reseller to work for them. By this time, 2 years have passed, and then they go back again and try and find another one. The key to success is to take the future into your own hands and actually go and visit the customers. Of course, you go to the systems integrators, they're also going to say, wow, this is a really great product. I'd like to be a systems integrator, but I also want to take your product to market as a reseller. And then, of course, all the other systems integrators will not want to buy your product because they then have a competitive advantage over them. So when you go to systems integrators, you take them direct, but you take all of them direct. You're quite neutral in your dealings with them. You treat them all equally. You give them the same levels of discount, the same levels of support. And none of them can actually take your product to market and be a reseller. We've used this around the world now in many different countries, and it's worked really well. So it's good, have an honest, open discussion, and close down any exclusive type arrangements with either resellers or systems integrators. And I say that the market has changed. The systems integrators now take them direct because they need the full margin to make a living and to eat. It's getting very tough out there for SIs all over the world. And of course, you can buy a lot of credibility and commitment from them if you offer them what they want. Now, with China, uniquely, the state television stations can't buy direct. They have to buy through a third party. So it could be through a systems integrator, for instance. But occasionally, they will need to buy from a reseller. So in which case, you will need a reseller. But be very careful when you choose one. Choose a reseller and make it clear they are a logistics partner, that you are going to manage the negotiations. You will manage everything. You will manage the pricing and so on. They are there merely for somewhere for CCTV or Beijing TV to place their order for fulfillment. Make sure you always stay in charge of the relationship with your end customer and you don't lose sight of that. Now, China is a very big country, and what you'll learn very quickly is you cannot cover it yourself, or even when you have your sales guy, it's very difficult. So encourage your sales guy, or you yourself, to develop a network of contacts through other people. And I know that my sales guy there now, he works very closely with the Snell sales guy, the other sales guys, Snell, Calrec, and so on. They all work together and they share and pool information. And every now and again I'll get a request for a commission invoice, which we always pay, because that way we support the network of people who are helping grow all our businesses. Actually, in terms of trading, it's actually one of the simplest countries to deal with. It's generally pro forma, cash up front. It's Xworks UK. They manage all the import process without any issue at all. They all have extensive import departments. In fact, some of the SIs have import departments based in the US. So it's inevitable. A lot of the products we supply to China are negotiated out of Miami, and they manage all the import process through various routes. China has now joined the International Carnet, and before last October they weren't in it, and it was always quite problematic smuggling goods for demos into the country. But now they've adopted the Carnet, it's much more straightforward. So I'll find out how that is next week on my next trip. In terms of finance, we've never had a bad debt in China. We're doing around $1.5 million a year in China. We've been doing so for the last few years. I've never had a bad debt. And all the major programs with the state TV stations, they're state-backed. Now, there may be some delays in terms of payment, but that's generally as a result of the government or the program's overrun and the government only pays in stages. So it does require a little bit of understanding with the systems integrator. But once you've established that trust with the SI, they respect you as a real partner, and that can actually pay huge benefits. So communicating to the people, we changed our marketing. We created a marketing plan and a budget of £10,000 a year initially, and this was for advertising both in print and digital. We appointed a media partner called China TV Buyers Guide, not a very exotic name, but in fact they're publishers of one of the premier communication product magazines and online and digital in China. Now, China doesn't have a really great publishing media. Primarily, it's all online, because don't forget, China came to all this relatively late, and the internet is really important. Now, we translated almost everything into Chinese, and as I said earlier, a lot of the key people do speak good English. However, a lot of the people that we deal with, people who are operating our audio monitors and 5.1 capture and so on, they're the regular engineers, and quite frankly, you need to make it easy for them to work with you. So also this 365.com, who are behind China TV Buyer's Guide, they also manage our web page. Web pages in China, they translate everything. It's all part of the fee. They run our Weibo page in China, because China there is no Facebook, so we have our own Weibo page. And they also translate the key pages of our website and then link them to their website. They translate also all our HTML mail shots, and they mail them. They act as a mailing agent on our behalf. So there's a mail shot we did 2 weeks ago to our worldwide word database, and you can see they've modified it and translated it, and then they would send it to the China database. We've got about 600 contacts in our CRM system, and each of them are now receiving emails 2 or 3 times a month with products. What's quite interesting is that I mentioned earlier that we've had to modify the way we communicate, because I remember the first exhibition in China, we had a whole new range of questions. In fact, one of the popular ones was, why do I need audio monitoring? And quite frankly, this is not something you would hear at a BVE or a NAB or IBC, because, hey, we all know why we need audio monitoring. But there was a real scratching of heads, and I think, actually, why do we need audio monitoring? We're making a living out of this. So we actually created a 4-page flyer, telling everybody in China why they needed audio monitoring. And it was acting to educate the market as to why this was an important part of the broadcast workflow. It would be too easy just to laugh at them and say, well, of course you need audio monitoring. What do you know? But there was a real opportunity to be educational and actually win a lot of credit and build the brand. We also invested £15,000 translating all our manuals into Chinese. For the Taliban product, which we saw earlier, it's a system, it's got lots of web pages and so on, and it can be a little bit problematic to program. It's quite complex. And this means that we could then direct people to the website, our website, everything translated into Chinese, and they can actually work things out for themselves. We've no idea what Chinese words are saying, but we don't get too many complaints. But it's really helped when the Chinese see that we've gone to all these efforts to translate something into their language. They really, really appreciate it. So we attended our first exhibition, BIR TV, in August 2009. It cost £11,000. So it wasn't. It was about the same price as maybe as a Broadcast Asia and so on. It was our own booth. It was not a reseller's, and we've always maintained that level of independence. We will never sit on the systems integrator booth. We will never sit on any reseller booth. We supply them all. In fact, within 100 yards of here in this particular hall, we could see all our systems integrator customers, but we had our own booth. That level of independence is really important. So 11,000 well spent. Now, which exhibitions to attend? I know that I've met many people who say, yes, we're going to penetrate Asia. So they get a stand at Broadcast Asia. And of course, Broadcast Asia is great. It's in Asia, right? And it's in Singapore, which has a relatively small TV market. But it's 9 hours flying time from Beijing, and it's 8 hours flying time from Australia. So in fact, the only people you will see there, and it's a great show to go to, I'd love it, it's all CTOs and generally the higher level people. But frankly, these aren't the people who are going to be choosing audio monitors, something costing less than $11,000, or a tally system, or maybe a microphone amplifier. The sort of people we need to target at are the ones that go to BIR TV, Koba, Interbi, and I could go on, SET in Brazil, or HD World in New York, or BES in India. All these small local shows are much more important to us than IBC or NAB. And if I had to make a choice, I would always go to the local shows. Now, BIR TV, it attracts 100,000 visitors a year. For those of you who have been, and I've been there a dozen times now, it's absolutely phenomenal. It's huge, absolutely huge. Completely chaotic and a little bit disorganized. And the quality of the event is not as what we're used to. It's getting better. But it is a really run-down old place, and we've had a lot of fun there. And there was one here. This is how an incompatible plug was sorted out by the stand wireman, and he thought that was okay, yeah. And we thought, well, there's no earth wire connected, so we connected the earth wire, and then we followed it back to the plug, the wall, and there was no earth wire in there either, so it didn't matter. The whole stand was floating. So don't be too precious about about the infrastructure. We had a bit of luck in 2009. The CCTV building, the brand new one, which has only just been opened, caught fire on Chinese New Year. A very large firework went up and then it came down again. And the whole building gradually burnt to the ground over 48 hours like a big candle. And the good news, it wasn't good news for anybody there really, but the comforting news was that all the equipment that was in that location had to be completely replaced. So as that was all selected in 2005, we had our first stab at supplying audio monitoring, tally systems, and so on. So it was very good news for all the equipment suppliers. So you need a bit of luck, and that got us off to a good start. So we're established. We're into CCTV, and frankly, I was exhausted, so I handed it over. I recruited a local sales guy in August 2011. He's not an employee. He's a contractor, but we pay him full-time to work for us. We pay a monthly invoice. We pay all his expenses, and we pay his bonus like a regular employee. So he is a regular employee, and we treat him as such. But we avoid all the issues of employing people locally by treating him as a contractor, and that works really well. He's very well connected, and like I said, he uses his contacts around China to help him win business, and we support him in that. We also provide exceptional support. We regular visits by the product managers, continue reinforcing the brand, and also demonstrating to the Chinese it's not just me, it's not just our China sales guy, but behind him there's a whole team that they can email and ask for help at any time. So these are the steps we took to penetrate China. And there are a number of learnings which we'll come on into a minute, but by following these, we've managed to singly pick off all the regions of the world, and we now export widely. So how has this benefited our sales? So in 2007 to 2014, our sales are several-fold higher, and you can see the green is the rest of world activity. Frankly, that's all in US dollars and a huge increase from where we were before. So our business is not only across all geographies now, it's in 3 different currencies which give us some stability. And if one region's up and other region's down, we have a much more balanced sales and make us a little bit less susceptible to changes in the market. And of course, the rest of the world, South America, China, India, Southeast Asia now is really starting to take off. They're all going from SD to HD. Worldwide, only about 48% of TV stations have made the transition. So there's still a huge opportunity compared to, say, some of the more traditional and established markets. And of course, revenues are one thing, but you'll also hear this. Everybody will tell you, oh yeah, this market needs special prices. Don't believe it. This is a graph of our margins. And you can see from the UK, which is pounds, South Africa is in pounds, the red is all in US dollar, green is in euros. And you can see there's more than a 10% difference in gross margins between the best and the worst. And you can see that Northeast Asia, which is China, is one of our better performing areas, as is Southeast Asia, and also, surprisingly, North America, where maybe you're always being told that it's the most competitive market in the planet. Beg to disagree. So, what are the key learnings? If you want to grow your company from where you are today, pick one region at a time and focus all your resources on it. By definition, you're probably quite a small company. TSL at the time, there was 20 employees, and that included all our manufacturing, so primarily it was down to me. And make a plan and stick to it. And the plan should involve all aspects, visits, marketing, that we've talked through. Make regular visits, become a face area member. They're all a bit fed up, and I'm sure you've had the same experience of the sales guy that comes round to you once a year, and he says hi, and he promises everything, and then you don't see him again for another year. You need to be there every few months. You need to plan these trips in. Link them to other trips to other countries, but get in front of them, and then they'll start to believe you, because they want to buy from suppliers who are going to be there when things go wrong. And they want to feel comfortable with that, because they are a very risk-averse society. Sell directly to the end customers to create the pull, but also then to the systems integrator, so that if the customer specifies your product, they won't try to design you out. You know, they will be happy to supply your product. And this is really critical, to identify who is specifying the equipment, get on their side, and then the SI, make sure you're covering all the SIs who may well be delivering that project to the customer. Use US dollars as your currency. It's amazing. There are a number of companies who insist on using UK pounds selling to China and India. And you've no idea the amount of problems that causes people in other countries, because, well, we think the UK pound, we're proud of it. Fact is, it's very problematic. They've got to have special banking arrangements made to deliver and sell in UK pounds. So if you choose US dollars, there isn't a country in the world that won't process your invoice. And once again, it's a risk-averse culture. Actually, it's not just in China, which is extreme, but everywhere in the world. Promote technical excellence, leverage, make lots of case studies, translated into Portuguese or Spanish for the South American markets. Use references like BBC, CNN, Sky, because there is a big lack of education and knowledge as to how things should be done in best workflow practice. Be that educator, be that teacher and trainer, and they will reward you with their business. Like I say, you don't need to learn Chinese, but get your manuals and keep communications translated. For our South American market, we've translated most of our publications into Portuguese, and that's had a dramatic effect in Brazil, because quite frankly, English is not widely spoken. Will they copy the product? People said to me, oh Chris, don't go to China, they'll copy it. You know what? If they wanted to copy it, they could buy it from Canford, and then they could export it to China and copy it anyway, so we may as well have some sales anyway. And when your sales get to a certain point, if you want to maintain an upward trajectory without wearing yourself out, recruit a local salesperson and then let them get on with it and treat them like an entrepreneur. BIRTV is important, so is CCBN, so is the Shanghai Media Festival. There are many other regional TV stations, and as your business grows, you're going to have to start touching more and more of these exhibitions. Have your own standard exhibitions to maintain a distance between you and your end customers, so you can maintain your independence. And use the services of the UKTI and Trade Fair, and also those of the IABM, to help you penetrate these countries, because there is a lot of support available. Yeah, use the hotel to send direction in Chinese, so you can give it to the taxi driver. Really, that is a big one, you know. And finally, I talked a little bit about copying, and I was in CCTV in 2010, and they told me a story. They said, Mr. Exelby said, we had a supplier approach us, and he showed us a TSL Tallyman that he'd made. And I said, oh, what happened? They said, well, they showed it to us, and we looked at it, And then we asked him how much it cost, and he told us, and I said, hey, but TSL is cheaper, which was brilliant. So this was the customer saying to their copy company, you're too expensive. So that was good. So we can compete, as long as we're not too greedy, and that was great. So thank you all very much. If there are any questions, I'm here, and you can ask me any question. Maybe you've got some all sorts of things that have worked for you. Please tell me. I'd love to hear it.